This video is for everybody. Hello, my name is Kim Ashley, and I am making this video to reach out to all persons of color. So whether you consider yourself an indigenous native to any given continent, or you simply consider yourself a black person who may or may not know your continent of origin, science indicates that we all share a common culture, and we all share a common ancient ancestry. So what I have to say in this video is important to the human collective. Here, where I live in America, it is the day for polling our choices out of the little choices we are given. One white man we don't know or trust versus another white man we don't know or trust. We are probably beating ourselves up inside to choose and to put our hands into a messy pot that we ourselves did not concoct and that we ourselves are scared to place on the table for the people we love. Painfully, we align ourselves to do the bidding of political lobbyists and mediocre leaders who won't even entertain our voices. And sadly, due to electoral colleges in most Black American communities, it is a fact that many of our individual votes will not count towards the final decision. For all of us indigenous people involved, either believing our votes do matter, our votes don't matter, or that our given choices are an insult to our intelligence, this video is for all of us. So what is it that I have to say to you all? I have to say this: vote anyway. The strength of our own community has nothing to do with the strength of the colonies. We indigenous people have work to do for ourselves today that will still need to be done in December, in January, and so forth. But I still say, vote anyway. We as indigenous people have a greater responsibility to organize our own communities, which have been around much longer than the colonies that have corralled our black bodies and resources. But vote anyway. We indigenous folks have had concerns about our needs that will never be addressed by the seated government. But vote anyway. Because at the end of Inauguration Day, when we gather to share ideas and ideals on how to conduct and manage ourselves and our own resources, we will be able to say with a clear conscience that we tried their way. And no, their way does not work. So we will focus on conducting ourselves in the ways we were shown by our ancestors, who cultivated successful communities before colonization was forced on us. And even though we were forced to be a member of a colony, we still are members of families and communities, and it is our human indigenous right to conduct ourselves according to our standard of living, which, being a higher standard than that of the colonies, could never pose harm or threat to anyone or anything. And because of the high standard which we conduct ourselves, it is actually our human duty to continue to do so without the input of our society's most abusive officials. As for this rest of this day, it is my advice to you all, to vote anyway. It absolutely does not matter who you vote for, considering we are unhappy with all the dominating options given to us. And it is my advice also for everybody, for every day of every year going forward, that you gather with your fellow indigenous peoples in your communities and make changes for yourselves. Please share this video for a few reasons. Firstly, because I can't get this message out there to the people without you all to share it. I am not anyone but a member of the community, and sharing will help me get started with the more content I would like to put out for indigenous and black communities of the world to hear. Secondly, please share, because indigenous and black community building is very important to the vitality and thriving of the human race moving forward. Our ancestors spent tens of thousands of years mastering life on Earth, and they did it responsibly. So it would be a shame to throw away the natural science and information they accumulated. Thirdly, please share this video so that we can prove once and for all that we care about this land, but the options given to us simply are not what we need and simply won't help. But we have to vote to prove that. It's crunch time. We all want to help, but most of us don't know how voting in this election could ever help us. The only way to be sure is to just vote anyway. No matter what, don't you ever let an election or an unnatural way of life take your focus away from your people and your community. I personally don't want to waste my time voting since I don't like either of the two options I'm being given, but it's just a couple hours out of my day, so fuck it, I'm gonna vote anyway. And if you don't vote, fuck it, we still gotta build indigenous communities. So that is what I wrote the other day that I wanted to share with anybody that feels like sharing with me. And like I said, I waited to the day of the vote to post this, so please share it and vote or don't. Don't vote if that's what your voice is telling you, that you don't trust the system. That's your voice. It matters. You hear me? But in case you're wondering if you should vote, if you're registered, and if you hate one candidate more than the next, at least try to vote that motherfucker. Politicians tell us what they think we should be concerned about. You know why? Because they think that people cannot govern themselves. Our indigenous people, our indigenous ancestors govern themselves. Our indigenous ancestors governed themselves until the new race of Europeans came on the planet and forced themselves on everybody. So we're talking about these people forced themselves on everybody, and they told you you're not equipped mentally to govern yourself. And then they enslaved people and told those people that they're not human. So we don't follow those people. They're the politicians, but we don't follow them. So then technically they are not leaders. And this is always going to be our community. We're always going to be a part of the community. We'll always have a higher moral standard than the people who claim to be our leaders, who force themselves on us. See, because like you said, you don't have to vote. You're still a member of the community, whether you vote or not. So doesn't that mean that somebody forced themselves on you? And then we don't trust the system. The Electoral College clearly is showing us that a lot of people's votes will not count by the Electoral College's rule. So we're still a member of the community. We're still being forced upon by hateful people. And we'll always have a say whether we vote or not. Our voice matters. So when we take ourselves seriously, we can do something about it. They'll never take us seriously. Don't worry about them. You don't have to speak to them. We need to speak to each other. Shout out to Ice Cube.